Loud. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello, Enrique. Nice to see your face. It's been a little bit. Hey, Tim. You too? Amazing. Hello, hello. Welcome, all of you. If you want to drop in the chat where you're coming in from, got some other people coming in. Welcome to the masterclass on the hidden cost of success. I'm super excited to do this. As I've been sitting here, it's so funny. I just went on my stories and I just did a masterclass not that long ago, somebody else's, obviously. And they shared in there just like, I can't even put into words, like a conversation that you think you've had, and then you're like, that you may have for the rest of your life. And I feel like this is it, what we're going to share here today. So I'm super excited about it. But by all means, drop in the chat where you're from, where you're coming in from. Let me just find, we're going to move that, and we're going to move that, all of my things. I will keep that open. Beautiful. Well, I'm super excited. You guys, have you dropped anything in the chat? You gotta be chatty. We're coming in from Toronto. Good stuff. I'm gonna engage you today. I know that's a little different. This is what I'm trying to get better at, is engaging you in the chat and sharing. Thank you so much. Lori's from Saskatchewan. We've got all kinds of Ontario. Caroline is here from PEI, not too far away. I'm super excited for this. This is gonna be so good. Beautiful. And I'm curious if you want to share as well, what made you join in today? I know a few of your faces I've seen before, but I would love to for you guys to share what brought you in today. What made you join a class that's talking about the hidden cost of success? Hello from PEI. Hello, my beautiful friend.
I can share. I have experienced a burnout 2 years ago myself in 2019. So when I saw the event on LinkedIn, I kind of caught an interest. And now that I am over it and working in a different place, I want to get better at learning the strategies, not so much for myself, but for the people I work with. I work in HR, so I come across a lot of burnout people, a lot of people struggling with mental health. So I just want to learn more tools so I can help others.
I love that. I love that you want to help others with it. And it's so true. And when we're working in, like, HR is a beautiful example, in that space where because I've been there, I've been in, in spaces where I've been in burnout, even my business as a self-employed, like, yeah, we're getting into the business to be in flow and have things have some ease and flow. But even in entrepreneurship specifically, I feel like there's a lot of things that we kind of tend to hold in on of, just having the doing part of things. We're going to get into that, but yeah, all kinds of, somebody else, HR, exactly. Some HR background, Tim, fabulous. But we tend to hold on to these ideas, and this is exactly what I want to talk about today, around the hidden cost, because we think of success and we're thinking of all of the amazing things that happen from it, the results that happen in our life, making money, having an established business if you're a business person, or you're building yourself in a corporate field, whatever. We feel like success is this. Right? We feel like there's so much to success, and that's the goal. We build up this idea that the success is our goal. But part of the problem is, like you said, or like we talked about, even in entrepreneurship specifically, is that we get into this space of, oh my gosh, I need to work hard to get there. Right? And some of these programs. So I would love to, just while we're here in the chat, what are some of those things? Like, I don't know if any of you guys, I know for myself, drop a one if this is you, if you've ever achieved something and you still feel like it's not enough, right? Like, hit a goal and you're like, oh my gosh, I still feel like there's more to do. Or who has been taught here that you have to work hard to succeed, right? Definitely that's been something for, like, I mean, I have parents that have worked all of their life and they're still working hard to get where they are, and it's something that's been programmed into us. And that's the biggest thing with success is that we feel like we have to do all these different things. And even when we in the corporate world or when we're in our job, we have to, in order to get to the next level, our next level is rewarded by more work. Or it's this, you're moving from this level to the next, you got to work hard to get there. And we feel like consistency is a struggle as well. Totally. But what is that idea? What is these questions of, that we chatted about here, like um just that it's we have to work hard to succeed. What if have any of you ever worked harder and harder thinking that would fix the problem? I know I've been there, especially in entrepreneurship. I feel like the more I work, the more I will succeed in my business, the more my business will flourish. But it feels like even though I'm working harder and harder and harder, I'm not getting the results that I want. Right. And that's the thing is that we've been taught and programmed work smart, not harder. I love that. Never felt like I was never enough. Right. You work hard. Doesn't matter what I do. I still have to work harder. I still have to do more because we're not getting the results and because we're being driven and programmed that the results are the success, right? And that we feel like in order to be successful, we need to have this. So in your mind, I would love for you guys to drop in the chat, what are the things that you think you need that makes you successful? What does success mean for you? I think I'm not doing what I can. Oh, yeah. Been there too. What does success look like for you? Like, what do we need to do? More time? Oh, that's a good one. And we all only have so much time in our life. So how can we, work harder, give more time? And, so success, does it mean more time for you? Is that what you mean? Time freedom? More time with kids and freedom? Yeah, beautiful. When you're satisfied, it moved. When you're satisfied with your inner corner, from your inner core. Yeah, I love that. That's what I'm getting at here. Being more forgiving myself and things not perfect. Oh, that's a really good program or idea that we tend to get stuck with as well, is things need to be, I'm also a recovering perfectionist and that everything needs to be perfect. I went through some of that even today. I was kind of getting some things prepared for today and I was like, oh man, you know what? We kind of just got to let it go sometimes. Like we don't, not sometimes, all the time. But what created that feeling of, I need to have it perfect? I need to work harder. I need to put more time in to get more success. We've been conditioned to believe that we need a house. I love this. Thank you so much, my dear. We need a house, vacations. So working hard and often at the expense of truly living our lives. But success should not be about, it should be about freedom, freedom of money and freedom of time. This is such a good point. Because like you said, we have been conditioned. And this is why I did this whole conversation around success and the hidden cost is that, yes, we have been trained all of our life. Society tells us we need to work hard, we need to get the things. And success usually feels like I haven't achieved this level of understand or this level of finances. I haven't achieved the house that I want. I haven't reached a goal. Even when we set goals, the goals are based on what? Usually finances or a certain level of something, and then we judge ourselves for not reaching it, right? And so what we want to do is we've been conditioned to consider all of these pieces success. My mother thinks we need things we don't have to, yeah, right? Simone, that's so good. Goals are usually based on the things that we don't have compared to others. Yeah. But all of that is based outside of us. All of the goals, all the success, ideas of success, even what, going back to the working hard and no matter what I do seems to get me there. Goals should be unfulfilled. Some goals should be unfulfilled. Totally. Usually that's where we need to go is letting them go. Not so much of letting go of, and this is the difference I feel between a goal of like this thing. It's not the goal doesn't matter. The goal, the reason why you put a thing there is to create a feeling within you. But what I want to get back to here is these programs we've been given. This, in my mind, is the hidden cost. We spend all of our time trying to achieve these things because of what? ideas, thoughts, and opinions of others, first of all, like we said about things that have been trained in us, these programs, beliefs that have been ingrained into us for years, since we were kids. We've heard, again, going back to our parents, if we look at our parents, we could see some of those programs of needing to work hard because they all came and have come through the industrial age where we needed to do things to get to where we want to go. And the problem that we're experiencing is we are doing and doing and doing, and that's not getting us where we truly want to be because one, the goal isn't the issue. The goal isn't really what we want, it's the achievement of the feeling of something. But it's also about letting go of these programs because they've been ingrained in us for so long that we don't even recognize that those goals aren't ours. The things that we truly desire in our heart are the things that fulfill us, not the goals. But we spend all of this time feeling like we need to do all this stuff. We need, in order to be successful, in order to achieve, in order to have those things that we think we need, we have to work harder. We have to put more time in. And what we want to do is move away from that. And how do we do that? I don't know about you, but I've been doing personal development on and off for an awfully long time, probably over 20, 30 years, 20 years. I can't say, in my 20s, I didn't really care about personal development, probably. But in this whole process of learning about myself and understanding these programs that we've been given all of our life, we start to identify these programs. We start to identify these beliefs, these conditions that have been given to us. Like I said, like we have to work hard to make money. What happens when we go on vacation? I know when I was in my job, when I worked in a job before I was self-employed, and like I said, even when I was self-employed, in order to take time off, I need to work harder. I still had that belief. I seen that in my life when I became self-employed. I needed to work harder before I went on vacation so I would be able to accumulate enough stuff in order to take time off. But then when I got back to work or I got back to my business, I had to catch up on things. Why is that? Because my underlying belief is if I'm not working, then I'm not making money. Again, it comes back to that program, that base belief that's within us of that's the problem. It has nothing to do with the money, the results, the goals. It has everything to do with the belief that's buried within, right? Have you ever gotten to that point where it's like, you know what, and this comes back to the burnout. Whenever you've gotten to the point where, you know what, I just need to keep pushing. I'm so close. I just need to keep pushing myself. Instead of listening to yourself when you're exhausted, when you're burnt out and being like, I can't do it anymore, but you're like, nope, I'm close. I just got to keep pushing. I got to keep doing the thing. Or struggle with slowing down and taking the time. I know for myself, even when I was working a job, I had vacation time and didn't take it. Success equals sacrifice, more effort, more results. These are all programs that have been embedded in us. Any one of those that you guys that resonate with you guys? Which one do you struggle with the most? And so this is the thing. Listen to your body always. I love that. And this is the shift that we need to have is to stop pushing through the paradigm, pushing through the beliefs and pushing through our body, our soul already knows is we don't need to push through. We need to start listening. And I can tell you from all of the work that I've done the last 2 years in myself, because when I'm most aligned and listen to my body and understand these programs, the more aligned I am, the more easier it becomes. But how do we shift? How do we create that opportunity where we move from these beliefs? Well, first we got to identify the belief. We have to become aware of it. That's our first step in the process is becoming aware of these beliefs, paying attention to what we think we need to do. Because usually we're stuck up here. We're stuck in really good in the masculine energy. And for the men that are here, it's not about just being in the like man. It's that we all have masculine and feminine. It's being in the doing of things. We've been taught all our life to do things. But sometimes we need to release and let go and use the feminine energy of getting, again, going back to the vacation. But the belief, if you hold the belief that if I go on vacation, there's going to be more work when I get back, what's going to happen? You're going to go on vacation, you're going to have more work when you get back because that's the belief. Even though you're taking time off and you're not pushing and you're like, oh, I'm going to take some time. Tim, that's a really good one. I used to feel that the need to be productive to prove my worth, even to myself. This is the thing because it has nothing to do with anybody else. It has nothing to do with your, like other people's beliefs. It has everything to do with what you believe. And whatever you believe is true is true. So going back to that is that I need to be productive to prove my worth. Then you're going to continue to be productive and work yourself to the bone in order to achieve what you think you're worth, but you will never get there because the program is keeping you there. And can I tell you that one of the biggest problems with this is one is we got to start, like I said, step one is to become aware. You got to know the belief and see the belief before you can change it. And the other thing is we have to be able to um, recognize it. Oh, there was something else I was going to share right there, and then it just ran away. We got to recognize it, but also, and this is where the shift comes in, is become aware of it and feel into it. Because a lot of the time, the belief, the belief we hold is what's holding us back. So we have to recognize it and then decide what do we want to do with that belief? What can we do to shift it? And I'll tell you a quick story. So for me, I was going through this process that I'm going to chat about in a little bit. We're going to go through some of it. I want to give you a strategy. I want you to walk away with a tool to be able to implement today. But what I have done for myself is started going through this process, like I said, which we're going to do. But one of the things that showed up is the belief was I needed other people to support me in my process, in my job, in my business specifically. I needed other people, but why? Why do I need other people? And again, it's not going through like uh, deep into the why of things, but it's like it's the feeling more than anything. It's the feeling behind that belief. So for me, it was I didn't have a belief in myself. So of course, I needed other people to support me. I didn't trust myself. So I needed other people to kind of be there to encourage me I was insecure in my own beliefs, my own self. So I needed the support because I didn't have a belief in myself. Going back to you, Tim, of like that, I couldn't find my own worth. Release and reset, we have validation. I need somebody else to say, oh, this is a good idea. Right? And all of that is based on a feeling. And for me, it was insecurity. And I could trace that. It wasn't until I started going through this process that I could trace it back to when I was little. And I could tell you most of our beliefs are back there. They were all created, right? Most of those programs were created when we were little, that we take into our careers, that we take into our life, that we're like, no matter what level of success we have, unless we do this work, it comes back to haunt us. The thing is with all of this, when you talk about burnout, when you talk about frustration and exhaustion, they're all based on beliefs, yes, but they all reside with a feeling. Like if we could bury down, it's again, it's not the why or what created the insecurity specifically. It's the feeling that I held within my body. So when I was going, no matter what I did in my business, no matter how many different strategies I tried, no matter how many different coaches I worked with, I can tell you I spent thousands of money, thousands of dollars on coaches, on programs, and different things. And it doesn't matter how much I spent or how much I did until I started really paying attention to the feeling that was under the belief, the thought that was like the feeling is in your heart. The beliefs are up here. So, like I said earlier, it's not about the thinking and the doing up here. It's about what's going on in our heart that we need to pay attention to that we've never paid attention to because we've been so used to and trained in the professional life and in career and in business that we need to focus with our mind. I know we're slipping into the feminine energy over here, but and the not even feminine, but we're moving into our again that personal development. But it wasn't personal development for me as much as it was because personal development, when I started my personal development journey, it was about reading books, knowing all the strategies. Again, I was doing over there. But it's really about moving from your head to your heart. I've been chatting with myself for the thought the last couple of months, thinking I need to have someone to talk it out with and validate your ideas. Yeah. Remind myself that the answer is within me. It's my decision, no matter who I talk to. Yeah. Ultimately, everything is controlled by us. Everything. But we need to move from the thinking and the doing because everything we do is based on our feeling. And even in business or in our career, we do things because we think, well, especially when in business and in entrepreneurship, we look at other people, we look at other examples, we follow their example. And so when we're looking at other people's strategies, well, that strategy works and that strategy works and that strategy works. But like I said at the very beginning, if we're not connected and aligned with it, if it doesn't feel right for us, you could try every strategy in the book and none of it'll work. It works for that person because they're aligned with it. That's it. So we could try, like I said, every strategy in the book. You could pay tens of thousands of dollars for somebody to create a strategy, but if you don't feel connected to it, it won't work for you. Difficulty for me is that I'm very analytic and very connected, but very connected with my heart. And this is the thing. Again, the program is we've been programmed to be analytical and we've done everything in our life up until this point thinking of a strategy or the way or very much in a process. And that works. Don't get me wrong. But it needs to be a balance of both. This is very interesting. I'm actually we're hosting an event next week around the balancing of masculine and feminine energies. So if you're interested in that, there's a free workshop we're doing as a group. But this is the thing is that we need to bridge the both. And most of us have grown up in a society that has been very much in the masculine. But we do need to start paying attention to how we feel because I can guarantee you when you are aligned, when what you're doing feels right, it will work every single time. And this is what I coach when I'm talking to people about business and their strategy is like you could try all these different strategies, but if it doesn't feel right for you, it's not going to work. You could cold message. There's people that'll like, numbers game. I get cold message everybody and it works. I get 100%, like 10%, blah, 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 doing all the numbers because they're aligned with that strategy. That strategy works for them. That's a really good point. Talking about our fears and achieving goals. But again, I want to go back to the insecurity story, right? I needed to go through the process of understanding the insecurity for me and where it came from. Again, not so much about the specifics of, oh, it was back when I was this age and this happened and this is exactly it. I didn't need to know the specifics around the when and the how. as much as I needed to understand how it felt in my body in order to start shifting it. And if it felt good for me or not. And that's the thing, right? So we talked about working harder isn't the solution, right? And so what we want to do is not what I want to take us through is a little bit of a process. Like I said, I've got a process that I want to share, but I want to give you one piece that I think will be super beneficial. And actually got two questions that we're going to do a little bit of writing on. But the first one I was going to give you, but then like I said, I was so excited before we started it, that I jotted down a couple of ones that are actually part of the process that I do, because I really want you to take away something from today. But the key shifts in order to move from struggle to success is, again, releasing what's the program, what's the belief you have behind success. So before we get there, let's start with this. I want you to just take a pen and piece of paper. And what does success mean for you? Because when we started, we asked the question, what is success? And we talked about goals. We talked about houses, money, blah, blah, blah. It's usually what our goal is. So I want you to write down, I'm going to change the question a little bit, actually. What does success feel like to you? I want you to focus on the feeling. What does success feel like to you? Acceptance. Beautiful. Because this is also the piece, is that when we move from it's a thing outside of me to a feeling within me, you're stepping more into alignment. Joy, lightness, sense of purpose. So if you guys close your eyes for a quick minute, just travel along the journey with me and feel what that feels like in your body. Comfort. It's just the way things should be. Should be. That's like stepping into alignment there. Not thinking about money. Safe when you're traveling. But what does that feel like, Nadia? Fulfillment and helping many people save. And I love it. What's the
I
fulfillment
think,
feel like? Go ahead, Nadia.
yeah, I think that when you are somewhere, when you are on your vacations, when you are, traveling somewhere, you don't have to think about money. You don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
reset your budget. You don't have to think much. You have some inner satisfaction. You have a kind of strange
Ah,
kind of freedom.
two
This
words
is
you just
called
said
success,
there.
according to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Was
I think
freedom?
that
Yeah, I just want you to focus on the
after
freedom
my
and the
marriage,
feeling.
I
So
wasn't
go
after my
ahead.
marriage, I was definitely not at that point that I had total freedom. We went for honeymoon, and I was definitely thinking about finances. But I think that after a certain point, like 3 to 5 years, I would be able to feel a freedom that, oh, I can travel wherever I want. I can
Mhm.
go wherever I want. I don't have to think again and again for staying in good hotels and like that. I think that this is the inner satisfaction, the financial freedom. This is success.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. What is, you said it in there, freedom and fulfillment were two really good words in there. I'm at my happiest when I help others. Alignment right there, Matt. When we feel that feeling of joy, of like fulfillment in our purpose, and when we're doing that, this is when you know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. When you feel like, I know, because I've been there in a job or even in my own business of like, and this is how we go through and we find and we pivot. I got to tell you, when you're an entrepreneur working for yourself, you got to be able to pivot, because you're going to find things that you're going to, even in your career, actually, it's like, again, looking back, I went from one job to the next for a reason, because none of it, or like it felt right for a while and then moved to the next one. But it's finding alignment within you. What feels right for you? And we can't stay in a place that doesn't feel right. We're just creating resistance. It's going to be a struggle every single time. So, in order to shift from like these beliefs, these programs that have been holding us in this pattern of repeat of success, of achieving success, we need to find what feels right for us is one. We need to become aware of what our feeling is, like paying attention to that feeling within us to begin with, the awareness of the belief, what's showing up, the feeling of what it feels like. Because most of the time when, at beginning, no one asks us what we think success is. Well, we know what we think it is, but nobody says, what does success feel like for you? Storytelling and sharing experiences. I love it. For sure. So we become aware, right? We start becoming aware and we're paying attention to the beliefs. So, it's not working harder that's going to solve the problem. It's not, we want to pay attention to those beliefs. We've already recognized some of those. And then it's like, okay, well, what does feel right for me? What does success feel like? And the other shift I want to provide for you guys today is around survival emotions. So this is one thing that tends to block a lot of us. No matter what we do in business or what we're doing in our career, we tend to have this automatic program. I don't know if any of you work with Tony Robbins, and I can't remember specifically what he talked about, but it's called it. But we have a dominant feeling that when things get tough or when things challenge us, we tend to turn back to that dominant feeling. And it's usually not a good one. It's usually like frustration or we take it out on people, retaliation. Like I said, for me, it was insecurity. There's a feeling that generally speaking, it's an automatic go-to when something challenges us. So I want you to take a quick minute. I want you to take a nice deep breath in. And if you asked yourself what that survival feeling or emotion is, what would that be for you? What's the automatic go-to? Originally, when I went through this journey for myself, like I said, I ended up in insecurity, but my first response to this question was anger. I tend to go to anger. So if you could really what's the default feeling that tends to show up when something challenges you? Anxiety, hmm withdrawal, overwhelm. And like I said, for me, it showed up as anger. I could see that all through my life. Not part of a group. Oh, what's that feeling? Not being included, right? Um, and when I went through it, again, it wasn't talk therapy that got me there, but it was just when you feel into that feeling. When at first I felt it, I was like, okay, if I feel into it, use my heart, my feeling, go within, and I start feeling that anger. And I was like, no, it's deeper than that. What caused the anger? And it was insecurity. And then when I really felt into it, what I noticed is it was interesting. It was actually my partner that pointed it out for me, is that when I was in that space, I became defensive. And can I tell you now, I used to think of that as we normally think of defensiveness as a negative connotation, that I was being defensive. But if you think about my story and insecurity, I was looking for somebody to protect me or something, someone in my insecurity when I was little, whatever, we'll go back to that space. But the defensiveness was actually the shield, was the strength that I've had all along that I didn't even recognize. And so going through this process of looking at our default programs, because can I tell you that we are in a society that's addicted to this survival mode. When you look around our world right now, what do we see? Fear, like everything we just rhymed off. Overwhelm, anxiety, fear, frustration. These are programs that are in society right now. These feelings are embedded in us that deeply. It's everywhere. And this society currently, what we are all surrounded by is we're addicted to these feelings, these default patterns. But when you came here, let's go back again to our childhood of when we first came here. Any of these feelings do you think we recognize when you look at a child, at a baby? Did they feel these feelings of overwhelm? Well, they might feel frustration because they can't get their voice out heard, but they're not really something that we come here with. When we think about our most truest self and we go back to the feelings of joy, of what success feels like, those feelings aren't included. So, how do we start shifting them? Again, going to what I used for myself about insecurities, I looked at the anger, and then I saw the insecurity. Then I saw someone that needed to be protected. And then I saw, as was pointed out to me at the time, which was super helpful, defensiveness. I was protecting myself the entire time. It was just titled defensiveness. And so when I shifted that perspective of, wait a minute, that means I had strength. That means I had courage this whole time to protect myself. But I was searching again out here for it. Babies, kids are just happy until they start being conditioned. Exactly. And then we pick up all these other things that are extra baggage. I was talking to somebody this morning and I was saying, like, this is the thing. We all come here as this truest self, this beautiful, magical being. And then we come here and we have all of these. I picture it as like, I'm trying to find the right image for it, but I picture it as like those nesting dolls, where you have like the first one and then they kind of nest in each other. But each one of those is that conditioning. And we keep getting all of these things layered on. We come as this beautiful, happy baby. And then we have these additional programs, beliefs. This, I need to work harder to be successful. I need to put more time in. All of these pieces get piled on top. And then we kind of got to go through some of the delayering process. And that's what I'm talking about with this shift. Is finding the root feeling. Because for me, again, when I hit that insecurity, it hit me. I was like, that's the root cause when I went through this process. And so it was feeling that feeling that I'm like, oh, this is where I need to start. But there's all these other layers. And so when we go through this process of like trying to shift our beliefs, what happens usually when we do personal development? When we've gone, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's gone through a program here where we've been trying to shift our limiting beliefs or our buried things that are holding us back or trying to find a better way for ourselves. We think there's like one magical course or one magical pill or one magical something that's going to shift and make it all better. But what if you had a strategy that just every time you used it, it shifted you immediately? And so that's kind of what I want to share is the opportunity of you being able to shift easily into that truest self. Not saying that it's going to happen overnight, but it starts with the awareness that we just talked about. And so if we took those feelings that we talked about earlier, those default programs like overwhelm, anger, rejection, and what if we could just take that piece and remove it? What would that feel like? Any thoughts? This is such a good point, Matt. Thank you. No one's coming to save us but ourselves. And this is the thing is that in the personal development world, in again, I've done coaching and I've done courses, and we are our own biggest problem, right? Because it takes a little effort to do this work. And it takes a little consistency. We talked about that. And it takes some bravery and courage. Withdrawal leads to regrouping and shutting out others so we can dig deeper. Yeah. Identify the triggers and take control of our emotions. This one is a good one. Don't react, respond thoughtfully. So as we're going through this process of shifting, recognizing, becoming aware of these programs, digging a little deeper, which is what we did, into the default emotions, and then starting to shift right? We can start to, as kids who grow up in fairy tales, it distorts our expectations. Yes, yes, that does. Definitely distorts our expectations. We anticipate there being a castle at the end with all the beautiful things. Everything works out with a happy ending every time. But everything we go through in our life creates us. Again, all of these programs created who we are today. But because we've gone through all of the things in our life, that means we have the strength, the courage, all of the resources within you to do what you need to do to move forward, to succeed. You have it within you. It's already there. You were born with it. Remember when I said you had all of like that magical being, the very glowing, beautiful thing that's the middle of the nesting doll? It's within you already. It's just, how do we get rid of all these layers? This too shall pass, both the good and the bad, 100%. And it's trusting in the fact that one, you already have it within you. You have every resource, like I said, that you need within you. And it's starting to learn to shift these ideas. And it doesn't have to take forever. I can tell you when I started this process, it was like I've had Linda's on here. You can talk to Linda. We started this conversation 2 months ago. And where I was 2 months ago to where I am now is a totally different place. And like I said before I got on here, I have never up until like today felt the alignment that I feel now with what I'm doing and everything that we're creating together and all of the things have as much as I feel it today. I said at the very beginning, this is one of those conversations that I know I will continue to have for the rest of my life because I can tell you how powerful understanding your, first of all, starting with the awareness of the feeling that's within you, that dominant feeling that you go to, the default feeling that whenever you're challenged, that's where you go to. This is where we need to start. This is where you start the process, is knowing that one, that's just a program that's been born in you by practice. So how do we get better at things? Practice. The same way you got here, right? That default feeling. So how can we start shifting that default feeling? So whenever it shows up, I can tell you I have a practice for this, but we'll go into it. Oops. I'll let Tom in. Tom's sitting here. I have an opportunity, which I'm going to share after. That's the gift. I have a gift for you at the end of the day. But there's a process in order to do this, and it could be super simple. And it's just literally recognizing the awareness of the default feeling and then deciding that it's no longer yours. This is the biggest thing, is that because we're so used to holding on to it, it's a default. Like I said, for me, it was insecurity. Once I saw the insecurity as, okay, well, that's the feeling. Well, then there's this, what was the feeling protecting it? So if we go back to anybody else's answers here, so let's go with anxiety. So what's anxiety? If we just talk about it real quick, and this is what I love to do with group sessions, is like, what's anxiety? There's fear. What are we fearful of? Anybody? Oh, Faith, that you are the answer. That's a really good one, Simone. Anxiety is the fear of the future. Yeah. So what's next? Oh, that's a good question. How do we answer that question? One, we already know the answers within us. The unknown, yeah. Worry and nervousness and unease, exactly. So anxiety is a fear of what's to come or what could happen. What if by using that idea, again, anxiety of like, okay, well, now that you know that there's a fear, how do we conquer fear? When we look at it, what are the options? We are, again, trained to know or trained to think, a lot of us are trained to think of, look at the news. There's a whole lot of fear there. And what does the news do? It gives us all the options of all the different things that could go wrong. So how do we shift anxiety then? If we start looking at the future as if not all the things are going to go wrong, what if we start, instead of anxiety and seeing the fear, feeling the fear, what if when you notice that fear come up, when you notice anxiety come up, oh, look, there's that. It's the beautiful thing about awareness is that now that you're aware, you can now know when to shift it. You've become aware of the anxiety. Beautiful. So every time that feeling shows up, we just decide that the feeling can shift. We live in the now. What if instead of focusing on it, just showing you awareness of what you're focusing on, you're focusing on what could go wrong, the fear. So we change our focus from that. Like I said, for me, it was defensiveness was okay, well, what if I shift that slightly into courage, bravery? And if you can have the anxiety is the fear or the faith of something going wrong or not knowing, but what if you did know? What if everything is within you already? What if everything that you do is the right thing? Everything that happens to you happens for a reason. If you start, instead of feeling as soon as you recognize the feeling of anxiety, taking that feeling and going, nope, I don't need that. It served me for a while. It's brought me here to make me who I am today, but now I don't need it. It no longer serves me. So now I can decide that I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to choose a different feeling. You've practiced anxiety for an awfully long time, and I'm not saying you specifically. But we've practiced these dominant feelings over and over and over again. We got here somehow, and we get out of it the same way. We start practicing a new feeling. And when we recognize the feeling, when we really, like, again, going back to that truly feeling that default feeling, we can start, and it's the same thing going back to the purpose of what we were talking to today is like, what's the hidden costs of success? Well, it's usually XYZ belief, which is based on a feeling, which we can now shift through practice. Now, here's the catch, is a lot of the times we get really good at being comfortable because we're human. And at this stage of the game, where none of us are under the age of 10, we are very comfortable in our comfort zone. So it does take a little more work at this stage of the game. We've created the feeling back then when we were under the age of 10, and then we've practiced it for 30 years for me, plus. So we need to practice a little bit. So what if every time you are now aware of this feeling that you're feeling every single time, and if every time you notice that feeling show up, you said, I'm going to shift. I don't want to stay in this feeling. I would choose another feeling and start practicing that feeling. I used to evaluate all the scenarios and prevent bad situations, but that brings unnecessary stress and body experience of bad situations. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and a vision created by us. 100%, Matt. What we see and focus on is the subconscious will work to achieve. 100% exactly. That's it. We have created these feelings within us over and over based on what we've been focusing on. So we just need to shift our focus to something else. What do we want? And see what we've been focusing on as not a weakness. Again, for me, going back to my story, is insecurity, which would have been a weakness, and defensiveness. And I shifted it to strength and courage, bravery. So now, when I have that feeling come in of like, oh, I'm insecure, I'm like, wait a minute. All of my life, I've been defending myself. So because I've been protecting myself and been brave this whole time, I recognize that feeling as bravery now instead because I've practiced it every time it showed up. I've changed my focus, like you said, Matt, of using my subconscious, is I've changed my focus to what I want. And now there's a whole lot more bold stepping up than there ever has been. So what if you could just practice that? Again, we've spent, for me, like I said, 30 some years practicing. I'm over 30. I mean, like I'm past 10, you know what I mean? Whatever. But I've spent an awful long time practicing this. So what if we consistently spend a month practicing this idea? Shifting what we see as a weakness, shifting the fear, the anxiety, the fear of rejection, anger. What if we shifted those feelings as soon as we notice them? And every day we spent a little bit of time paying attention to our reactions from yesterday. It could be through meditation, it could be a variety of things. But it's taking these programs, these beliefs, these root feelings, and making a decision to shift them. I would love to open it up. If anybody wants to share, or if you want, we can kind of do a little bit of a hot seat. But if you want to find the strength in something that you're working through, and again, this is kind of what I plan on, I'm going to share after as a gift. I have an opportunity for you. But this is what we're going to kind of do is like as a group, we're going to go through and we're going to help each other shift out of this. What's our strength? You can drop in the chat too. We kind of talked about anxiety and how we can shift that. If there's anything else you guys want to work on, we can definitely go through that. Resilience. That's a strength, right? And that's a really good point because I've had some conversations with people with that exact idea where they've seen that they've gone through all of these things, they've had all of this trauma, they've had this whole experience that has impacted them. And my thought is exactly that. Look at all of the things you've built resilience around. Look at everything you've survived. Look at all of the things you've overcome. That, in my mind, is strength, is resilience, like you said. Simone, from your, like 100% resilience. That in itself is a good point because this is the other piece of the shift is awareness, like we talked about, recognizing it, shifting it. But also that's a really good point. That's exactly another part of this process is all of you makes up that experience. So even though I don't feel bad, this is why I have no problem talking about the insecurity now because I've come to grips with the truth about it, of who I've been in that process, of the defensiveness, because all of those pieces are me. And I love all of them now. I don't see them as weaknesses. I don't see them as something that I need to hide. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, what are the pieces that we're hiding from ourselves usually? Because nobody else notices. We're all too busy focused on ourselves, can I tell you? That nobody else notices all of our insecurities. And this is one of the things too. It's called evolving into the new authentic you. So this is one of the things I'm shifting is I've gone through meditations or I've gone through programs and stuff where it's like the higher self, the future self, the authentic, and that's such a trendy word that for me, it's the truest self. And like I said, it goes back to that very basic magical being that you've always been. It's whatever you want to call it, but for me, that's what it is that when we connect with that version of ourselves, because we're all in there, we're just buried under all this other stuff. Self-compassion. Yeah. It's building that in the process, is recognizing awareness, it's shifting, it's filling the gap of like, because when we get rid of something, the universe doesn't like a vacuum. So if we're getting rid of the fact that I don't need that self-image or insecurity no longer serves me, I'm going to get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. Essentially, it's always going to be part of me. But because I love on it, I recognize it and I feel it and I understand it, I'm aware of it. And that part needed to be there in order to make me me, in order to make my truest version of me, actually, because I wouldn't have discovered this version of me without it, without recognizing the insecurity. So it's sharing love on that side of you and sharing and recognizing that it makes us whole. I think this is a piece that's been missing in a lot of things that I've done is the sharing love with that space, because it feels weird because you're like, well, that's the part I want to get rid of. And it's recognizing that that's part of you that makes you whole, not just like, oh, that was good while it was there. It's no longer part of me, but it is. That part of your journey has always and will always be there. Positive growth mindset, always be open opportunities. They will always come our way for sure, Matt. Any questions? I love all this. What are your thoughts? I would love to hear what you guys are thinking at this point. Like, we've gone through the awareness, we've gone through the shifting, we've gone through the recognition and seeing the strength in that. This is the journey I kind of wanted to take you guys on, because really, this is part of this process that I'm talking about, all of these pieces. And again, if we spend a little bit of time every single day focusing on that, what do you think that'll do to your life? If you take these pieces that we think are our weaknesses that hold us back because it's a default program, and what if we shifted it and recognized it as our strength? And what if that was the journey to find the authentic, truest version of yourself? Is seeing yourself as whole. Because it's more to just, okay, I love all the pieces of myself. The challenge when working with people is trying to help them is that many lack self-awareness and often blame external factors. Yeah, really good point. But here's the thing, is we can't help people on their journey. We essentially are only here to help ourselves. Not in a selfish way, but we can't, in order for them to see the awareness, we need to be the light for them. We need to continue the work on ourselves and the journey for ourselves. And when we become that truest, authentic version of ourselves, the whole version of ourselves, we are going to show up in a completely different way. Like I said, for me, nope. To answer your question, that when we shift out of that, it's like into that truest version of ourselves, we are lit up. Like you said, I've had a shift from, I'm a completely different version from what I was 2 months ago through this process. I am showing up differently. I feel different. And I'm not the only one. I've been walking this process through with a couple different people. And so the reason why, again, there was something else I wanted to share, but again, I just want you to be able to show up as the most authentic, truest version of you. And I've gone through the process. Like I said, I've spent 5 months or 5 years, not 5 months, I wish, and thousands of dollars later, I've tried a lot of different things. And these pieces that we've talked about are the things that I found that have made the most impact. Thanks so much, Matt. Appreciate you being on. See you next time. So I want to share, I do have an opportunity, if anybody's interested, to continue this journey. This has just been here's the things that you need to do. But like I said, I have a process that I've developed through working with myself, and I've developed it working alongside a few other people. It's called the Sacred Shift. And if you're interested, I am offering an opportunity, if you would like to walk through this process, to walk through it with you. I have 2 opportunities. One is I'm super excited to share. For those who haven't seen, I think a lot of you that are on here may have, but we're doing a retreat in March where we're literally focusing on this process. And imagine being in a group of people where you are walking through this process alongside each other, doing again this group work of having these conversations and throughout the weekend and creating this most authentic version of you, the connecting with the truest version of you and letting go of these multiple other layers. I'm so excited to create this opportunity for people to walk through. It is going to be like so life-changing. I'm just so excited. So if this is something you're interested, the other thing too, I'll share a quick snippet of is the other opportunity is if you are not available for a retreat, because it is March 7th, it's coming up soon, to 9th, it's 3 days in Ontario. If you're not available, I am offering this opportunity on a one-on-one basis. So if it's something that you wanted to walk through, have support through, again, I've given you all the things you need to do. And it's up to you. If you want to take the opportunity of the process, go for it. But I've spent, like I said, 5 years and lots of dollars to figure this out on my own. And I would love for you guys not to struggle. So I do have an opportunity as well that if you want, I'll drop what I do. I'm going to drop in the chat here is a group call. If you want to jump in a call with me, we could talk about what that looks like to work one-on-one through this process. And the beautiful thing about this is I can tell you, and this is what I'm so excited about. You go through this process, you'll just be able to take it. Like once you master this process, you'll be able to take it and apply it to everything else in your life. Whether it's money, whether it's life, like all of these things, once you master this process, you can apply it to every aspect of your life. I can guarantee that you won't go through this unchanged. And then again, you could reteach it to friends, you could reteach it to whoever, but it's literally a process that you can apply to everything else in your life. And it will, like I said, I've gone through multiple programs and been to the point where this didn't work for me. That won't happen again because this has been transformational and it's been transformational for people that I've been working through it with too. So I will drop a call like in the chat if you wanted to book a call and we can chat about it and what that looks like. But anyway, I'm super excited if anybody wants to chat further. Oops, I dropped it there to everyone. There you go. If you're watching the recording of this, please feel free to reach out. Like I said, I have a couple opportunities, either the retreat or just talk about what this looks like for you. I would love to have that conversation. But I know where this is going for people, so I just want to be able to share it. So the last thing I want to share before we lose everybody is that for the next 24 hours, my gift for you is that I do have it on a discounted price. So if it's something you're interested in, the next 24 hours are yours if you want to make that decision. So anyway, that was all I wanted to share. But if you have any questions, if you want some support, if you want some clarity on the process, feel free to reach out. I would love to share that with you. Hopefully you've taken some things away from today and feel free to apply them. And if you would like support with that, I'm here for that. So anyway, have a beautiful day, my friends. We will talk to y'all soon. Thank you for joining. Thank you for bringing your energy in here. And we'll see you again another day. Bye now.
Take care. Enrique, good to see you.